Hello again, YouTube fam. I just made a video about basically my testimony of how I became a Christian. I'm making another video right now about what happened with church with me and what I wish would have happened and what I'd like to see happen in churches going forward, because this has been a struggle for me. It's actually what's kept me away from churches more often than not, because I feel like I just don't have enough of a say, and I don't have enough, resources, power, influence, connections, whatever, to make something like this happen. But right now, for whatever reason, I feel like is the time for me to start talking about it and see, who out there hears this message and connects with it. So, the way my sort of discipleship process started out, that's, the process any pastor or mentor takes with a new believer, a new Christian, to help them grow to become more like Christ. So the first thing that happened with my youth pastor was he started, he actually printed out a bunch of pages with Bible verses on them and handed them to me, kind of like as a, new believers guidebook, and said basically, try to memorize these the best you can. And some of them were actually pretty good, and I still remember a lot of them to this day. On the very first page, it had Psalm 119, 9 through 11, and all of this was in the New International Version, NIV. How can a young man keep his way pure? By living according to your word. I seek you with all my heart. Do not let me stray from your commands. I have hidden your word in my heart that I might not sin against you. So I memorized that because that was there. And then I think it's 2 Corinthians 5:21. I might have the wrong reference, but it's the one that says, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old is gone, the new has come. Trying to basically help me understand what had just happened to me, because, I was a new Christian. So, and there were other verses like that to basically help me along my journey as a young boy, becoming a young man someday. And he met up with me, somewhat weekly, and we did a Bible study with another young guy close to my age, and we also went out and, actually one time he just spent time with me hanging out and talking, and we came across like a homeless person, and he, evangelized to him and prayed for him. It was really cool, really powerful. And the guy was very receptive, and it seems like he, like something changed in him that day too. I don't know. But so there were good experiences, but basically, so that was 2003, 2004-ish. So fast forward to about 14 years later, to 2018, and I was still feeling like, I feel like something's missing from my foundation as a Christian. Like there's just so much that I don't understand that you would think I would understand. And one of them was basic definitions of the most common terms you hear in church. Terms like, faith, grace, hope, love, humility, the fruits of the Spirit, the gifts of the Spirit, and responsibility, and just all that from a biblical or a Christian perspective. What do those words mean? And what do we mean when we say them? Saved, just all of them. So I went to this class. It was basically like a new believers class called Foundations of Faith. And so I asked the teacher, what is faith? Sorry if this is a stupid question, but he gave like this lengthy, confusing type of answer. I wish I had talked to him about it later. I just kind of, just ditched. But so he answered. Other people in the class gave their own answers. One person mentioned Hebrews 11:1, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. That didn't really clear it up for me either. So I was still confused. Like what is faith in a practical sense? Like when you're using faith or operating in faith, or when you have faith as a possession, what is it? What is it doing? How does it function? So I went home And either that day or another day, I just simply prayed and asked God, what is faith? And so the answer I got, if I can remember it clearly without going to my notes, was I saw myself in this like really old style church with like wooden pews, maybe marble floors, a nice podium on a stage, and stained glass windows on the wall. And one of them was a stained glass window of Jesus up on the cross. And I'm looking at it, and Jesus is standing actually right there next to me, and he asks me, "What do you see?" And I say, "My salvation." And then he says, "Why do you say that?" And I say, "Because I believe it." And he says, "But were you there to see it happen?" And I'm like, "No, I wasn't." And he says, "Then you have faith. Faith is belief, absent sight." And as soon as I thought I heard that, some Bible verses came to mind. Paul, when he says we walk by faith and not by sight. And then how Hebrews 11:1 ends with, it's the evidence of things unseen. And then in John, when Jesus is talking to Thomas and says, "You have seen me, and therefore you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe." So what he did was he put this like contrast between, or he put on opposite sides of each other, seeing things and believing them versus having faith, because all those three verses mention something about sight, and how just like it's, blessed to believe without having seen something, that if you walk by faith, you're also not walking by sight. So sight is separate from faith, according to those verses. And that just made it really simple for me. And then it was like, it was relieving, and it was comforting that I could get an answer from God like that. But at the same time, I was like, why don't more churches just teach that? Why don't more churches make, concepts like faith and other, common terms that we need to know as a Christian, why don't they make them simple? And so I was thinking about this struggle yesterday. And so here's basically what I got. When I was telling God, I want to share my story about the disconnect I feel like I've had between what my experiences have been in church and what I think probably should happen, especially on behalf of new believers being discipled for the first time, and they're learning all these things from scratch. And so I just explained what was that situation that happened, and then the answer I got from God. And then I hear from God this as I'm praying yesterday: "What you should have been taught first is simple intimacy with Jesus. It's by learning to hear his voice for yourself that you got an answer you needed, the answer of what is faith. This is where discipleship truly ought to start, starting with undoing the lies that kept you from understanding the love of God that's now available to you, then going from there into what God's love actually makes available to you on a daily basis, which includes hearing from him, which includes getting answers from him to our questions about faith and everything related to faith. Then, as you searched for, you needed to begin learning the meanings of words that were now applicable to your life, like faith. This way, both the Bible and the words I speak to you individually could be better understood by you." So that's basically what I agree with that 100%. Why wouldn't I? I want to see, more churches, when somebody has an encounter with Jesus for the first time and it seems to have caused a switch in them, a transformation of some kind, that progress is, moved forward by people who are helping to mentor and disciple those people by teaching them how to have that simple intimacy with Jesus. So I guess that's what I'll say for another video is how I was taught that, and how I hope new believers can be taught the same.